Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters, today we're going to make these two cards. They're a 5x7 and a 6x6 card, and we're using the Papercraft Society box number 30, the products inside that to make this card. So I'm starting with my 5x7 card, and I have a piece of cardstock measuring 10x7 here, and I've scored it at 5. We're going to then fold that in half, and that's our card base. Now you can buy ready-made ones or make them yourself. I buy the ready-made ones. I have a piece of cream cardstock, and it measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and that'll sit on top there like so. And then we need a pattern paper to go on top of that. Now the pattern paper I have all together, it comes like this, and what I've done is I've cut it down. So now my pattern paper will measure 5 3/4 by 6 3/4 long. I'm also going to score it at 4 1/4 on the 5 3/4 side. That way I can then burnish the score line and wrap that around the back. The extra piece I've cut off, I fussy cut out these two little butterflies. I'm going to put the smaller one near our sentiment. The larger one, I'll fussy cut that out and put some white cardstock behind. Okay, so rather than cutting off the excess on our pattern paper, I'm going to score it. I'm going to fold it underneath because this is only one-sided pattern paper. So I'm scoring it here at 4 1/4. So I'll just notch back to 4 1/4 and do my score line there. And by doing this and folding the pattern paper back, I can glue that into place, and then it gives the appearance of double-sided paper, and it'll actually have a continuity of the patterned paper that's on the front to the underneath side. But if you have a piece of double-sided pattern paper, you can just cut that down to 4 1/4. There you go. So I'm just going to glue that down now, and then I'll be able to pop that onto my cream background matte layer. Okay, so with this side to my scoreboard, I want to put a little notch at 3 1/4. That's the halfway point there on our pattern paper. I'm using the wire as a guide on my trimmer, and I'm going to cut down just to the bottom of the pattern paper that we can see there. Now I went past it a little bit, but it doesn't matter, you won't see it. I'm going to cover that up using a little butterfly. Now I'm just folding back over my pieces that I have cut down, and I'm going to use a little bit of foam tape underneath them so there's a bit of dimension. So you can score along there if you wanted, but I just think folding them back works perfectly fine. So I've turned over my pattern paper now. I want to glue down these little pieces onto the back so that they don't come up. And it just makes it easier when I'm gluing the panel down onto my matte layer of my card. So we'll just glue those down, and then we can glue this down then to our matte layer. So in there I'm going to put my sentiment. I'm putting a little mark just underneath the pattern paper there, so I have an idea of how far over to stamp my sentiment down. Now I'm using the Easter Wishes stamp that came in the Papercraft Society stamp set, but I want to make sure that if I have to do a second stamping, I'm going to get it in exactly the right spot. So for that reason, I'm using my stamp positioner. This happens to be the Misty, but you can use whatever you have in your stash. So I'll just place my stamp in there where I think it needs to go. I have a little mark there, but I still want to judge it by just putting my pattern paper panel in there as well. Just makes it easier when you're eyeballing it like that. So I'm happy with that now. I'm going to pick out my ink that I'm going to use, and I have some of the Spectrum Noir inks, and I'm using this one here. I'll leave a list in the links in the description below of the inks that I have used. So once I've that stamped down, I do decide to go in for a second stamping and stamp it down a second time. So with that done, and seeing as I have my ink out, I'm now going to stamp the inside of my card, and I'm going to do it across the whole bottom of the card. Now I did start out thinking I would just do it on this bottom piece here, where generally you'd pop a sentiment and your message to the recipient, but I really love doing this first and second generation inking. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave the card blank inside, and it gives me the whole card to write on. So although you only see me doing it on the right hand side of the inside there, I actually do continue across onto the left hand side as well. So now I've my matte layer stuck down on the outside. I'm going to stick down our beautiful patterned paper, and I'm using the Collal glue for that, just to give it a bit of strength. I'm going to stick back those little folded pieces there. I'll use some foam tape for that. And I've also got this little butterfly. So I have the teeny butterfly and the bigger butterfly. I'm going to use my Cosmic Shimmer glue to stick down the teeny butterfly over our sentiment. And the bigger butterfly, I'm going to glue that down onto the white cardstock you can see there. And then I'll fussy cut around that. I wanted a little bit of dimension behind the folded parts there. So like I said earlier, I've put some foam tape behind that. So I'm going to allow my little butterfly to glue and set for the glue to dry. I find that makes it much easier when you're fussy cutting. And don't be too worried about getting it perfect all around the whole piece that you're fussy cutting out. People don't really look that closely when you fussy cut something like this, but try and keep it relatively the same going around. So there you go, that's a zoomed in look at my fussy cutting. It isn't great, but it's grand. And I love having that little white piece going around the edge of the butterfly, because I feel that helps it to pop then off the pattern paper that I'm going to stick it down to. Now I'm just using a little piece of foam tape along where the body is of the butterfly. I've given the wings a little bit of curve, and then I'm going to stick that down in place. And there is our lovely 5x7 card all done and finished. So this is our 6x6 card. Let's go ahead and make that one. So I have my card base, it measures 12 by 6, and I've scored it at 6. That'll give us our 6x6 card base, and I've used some cream card for that. This piece is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and what I have done is I have marked my line. I've come down halfway, I've come in 2 inches, and that's where we're going to cut our little slot like we did for our previous card. Another option is with the larger sheet, you can just score that and fold it under like we did at the previous card. But I've cut my pattern paper down to 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 because I loved the bunny and I wanted to use that as my focal piece. So I've also cut out the 2 butterflies, and I did a little stamping on some cream cardstock with some of my inks I had. I wanted to match up the color on the pattern paper. So for a finish, I'm going to use the Pale Fig. It's a nice light color and it'll match nicely. And I have my stamp here as well, so I could stamp the inside of the card. So I have got my patterned paper, I have cut my notch in it, and I have folded that around. You'll see on there what I did was I added a piece of the embossed cardstock and stuck that behind. I just wanted to give it a try. There is a little bit of bulk there behind it, but it does look really cool having a piece of embossed cardstock, and I used the pink card that came in the kit behind for this. So it's up to yourself, whatever works for you, go ahead and do. So I'm just faffing around a little bit looking at the position of my bunny. I'm going to put some foam tape behind him, and then I'll add a little bit of liquid glue to the ears and the side of his body as well, so it sticks down onto the embossed piece of pattern paper. And again, I'll just use my Cosmic Shimmer glue to glue those down. I've got my Misty out again. I'm going to use that to stamp my sentiment down. And even though I have my bunny stuck in place and I have my dimension underneath it, my Misty still worked a treat because, you know, I craft long and I don't think to myself to do this in an order. I just edit my videos so it looks as if it's done in an order. But yeah, definitely stamp your sentiment before you stick your bunny down with dimension. But if you have a stamping platform, you'll be fine. So now I'm going to use my stamp of the lovely little flowers that I used on our first card to stamp inside. Again, you'll see me just do it on this side of the card base. I only do it on this side for this card, but again, you can do the whole bottom of the card base and it really does look lovely. And I'm using first and second generation. I'm stamping off the first inking so I get the lighter inking second time around. Lovely, I love this. And again, I'm leaving it blank inside because it gives me more room to write a message. I've stuck down my little butterfly just on his body. His wings aren't stuck down. And then I'm going to take a pen very similar in color to our pattern paper, and I'm going to do little dots for little butterfly trails. And I've done that in our yellow and green card, our 5x7 card as well. To embellish both cards, I'm simply taking a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and I'm going to use that on different parts of the two cards. With this one, I'll do the bunny's ear, I do the bunny's eye, I'll do the butterflies that are on the top part of the card, and just some random little flowers and leaves and stuff around it. And I do that with both cards. So there we go. There's our 6x6 card and our 5x7 card using the beautiful pattern papers that came in the Papercraft Society box number 30. I hope you liked my video. If you did, you might consider clicking on the like button and giving my video a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if you're not, please do click on that bell icon down below so you'll be notified each time I post a new video. And don't forget, you can find links to the products I've used down below in the description. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye for now.